I would like to say that there's not just like a rubric of grooming written out online, but there's lots of ways to find actual, they call them grooming Bibles, and you could find them in many places, even as little as Reddit. And basically, there's a certain rubric to it. There's steps. Basically, they look out for certain things. So kids with no siblings, trans kids, kids who are already isolated from society, friends, homeschooled kids. They look for kids with only mothers, working parents. So that's why our decoys never have siblings. They never have a father. They have a mother that works all the time. It's very interesting to do the decoying myself too, because I really get to learn a lot about how they think. And I see a lot of the same questions from a lot of them, like, how's your relationship with your mom? Oh, are you guys not close? Like, is no one looking out for you? Is no one pampering you? I've gotten multiple of those just this week. And it's just, I feel like not even a lot of them are looking up, how do I groom a child? I think it's just something in our human nature that, like, either some people use it as a maternal instinct, and like when we see a child, like if me and you are walking down the street and we see a kid, we want to make sure that kid's like okay, no one's like bothering them, talking to them. But these guys, they kind of they groom them, they move towards a certain direction with it. And I think it's just disgusting. There's definitely a rubric for it. There's definitely a way that they all try to stick to, and there's things that they look for. So those are the things that parents should look out for.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to I Came With Fire podcast, a place where we try to be a bridge in the divide. Your source for objective truth and educated opinion is what Brandon would say if he was here, but Brandon is not here, as you can see, so you get the second best. I'm just kidding. It's going to be an awesome conversation that we're going to have tonight. I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. Viewer discretion advised. Tonight's topic could get a little deep. We're going to talk about some child sex trafficking and child predator stuff. So if you got littles in the room, because I know we have a lot of people that like to watch the podcast with their kids and stuff like that, you've just been forewarned up front of the topic at hand, and you can proceed as you see fit. With that being said, I am not going to try to introduce you, bro. I would like to just start off from ground line zero, and I would like for you to be able to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the why and how and all that crazy stuff. But I'd really like for you to be able to present yourself as authentically as you want to present yourself for this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Donny Burgers. I run and own the organization New York Pred Hunters. Basically, we're stationed out in Long Island, and we pose as children online, trying to meet child predators who are trying to meet these children and solicit sex acts from them. So then we meet them, we give our findings to the police, and we just go from there. We've been doing it for about 3 months now. We have 15 catches and a few arrests in 3 different states. So
Primarily in New York, right?
yes, primarily in New York.
Dude, what in the world? So first of all, I think you're doing God's work. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
As a
Appreciate
father of
that.
4 kids and one on the way, I'm sure it'll come out as we go through this conversation about just what I think about these types of people that you're going after. And I hesitate to even call them people. I'm being very, very generous when I say that. But what in the world made you want to pick up this fight specifically?
It's kind of weird. A lot of people ask me that, and I never really have like an exact answer because I feel like there was just so many different things in my life pointing to this. And I feel like for a lot of people, they always know that this is like a possibility that people do this in life. But when it's really in your face and your eyes are opened, you kind of just, you feel like at that point, like it's do or die. Like you can get involved or you could just turn a blind eye. And ever since like, like a year ago, I was just like working nights in a supermarket, watching these videos, just trying to pass time. And, so it's kind of crazy to think that now I'm like, doing catches with the same guys that I was watching in the supermarket at that time. But it's just, a few things led me here. I always watched these videos. I was always such a big fan. And then, I suspected somebody in my town of, that type of activity. And I did my own little research, and I came up on a few good tips, and I forwarded them to some pred catchers, and we couldn't really do much about it. But we hit it off, and they kind of pushed me into this line of work. specifically Predator Poachers Long Island. So they were great. They've helped me get really at this and just show me the ropes. So
So would you say you were maybe even recruited a little bit? Is that fair?
yes, very much so. But I love it though. It's like the opportunity of a lifetime.
Well, sometimes it just clicks and you fall into what you were meant to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really feels like after I left the Marine Corps, I really like have just been feeling like very purposeless, and it's just it's been
Mm.
kind of hard being home and just trying to custom to like normal life again. It was just very weird, but this is the first time I actually feel like I have such a strong purpose again. So it's a blessing, honestly.
Dude, the mission is everything. And like I said, I think you've
Hmm.
picked when it comes to the fight. Like I'm a super Christian guy, so
Yeah,
everything.
me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
all right. So there's a lot that we're going to be able to agree on, and a similar paradigm that we're going to have for all of this. But it's like when Jesus said, it would be better for a man to tie a millstone around his neck and cast himself into the sea than to stand before God in judgment, having harmed one of these little ones. Like
Yes.
I don't think he was bullshitting when he
No,
said,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I don't think he was, and I think that you guys are doing God's work when you do this. And from what little I've seen from your videos, you're not. I really like your style. There was one that I thought was really interesting, and you approached a dude kind of like man on the street. And you gave him like, here, choose these three tickets. One's like a free whatever. One's like, and the dude totally. And when he opened up that paper and like slammed it shut, I was like, oh shoot, they got him good. Which means you guys must
Yeah.
have had like something of a pattern of life, something of like we know kind of where this dude's going to be and when. And obviously you knew like what he looked like, so it was a pretty
Yeah.
easy setup for you to do that. But it sure does seem like from first of all from one vet to another. Thank you for your service. I'm going to do
Oh, of course.
the thing
Thank you
right,
too.
uh, dude. Doesn't it make you feel weird when people say that still?
Yeah, it's so. It's. I mean, you're a Green Beret though. That's some real
uh,
service.
well, no, dude. You're a Marine. That's I love the Marine Corps. But it sure does seem like a lot of the ways that you were probably trained. And I don't know what you did in the Marine Corps, but just with military planning and that process, it's like I can see how that's directly transferable to what you're doing now. You
I
know?
appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's definitely like a one up I have in life, or rather than the people around me, because I'm just kind of like I always just, I'm always pretty hard on myself when it comes to it. So like I'm always
Mm.
trying for more and to do more with these guys. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no worries. And that kind of dovetails into, so we talked about kind of like the why that you got into this. I would really like to spend and don't I understand TTPs and SOPs and all that stuff, and like I don't want you to give away like the secret sauce as it were, because it's like I don't want, it's kind of like the arms race of the gangs in the 1930s. It's like I don't want you to give something away and then they get more sophisticated. But I would really like to kind of dig in for a while of the like how you go about doing this. And
No, of
and kind of
course.
the reason, yeah, kind of the reason I do is because any parents out there, they're going to watch this coming back later. It's like I think that they'll be able to glean out of this things that it's like, okay, if I know how they're going about doing it from the other side, then I know how from this side to keep my kid from becoming vulnerable, right? To like how these monsters are acting. So can we just dive into that? Like what's your process? You said earlier before we started that you had a light work week this week. You spent most of the week I can't remember the word that you're
Decoying,
using. Decoying,
decoying.
right?
Yeah.
And then okay, so can you take us through like how do you do this, man? Like what's your modus operandi?
Yeah, so and I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think the grooming habits, like we can what we learn from those, we can teach our parents what we can look out for and how to avoid that. But basically, with decoying, it basically we hop on one of these apps, we make like a normal profile. We have to use a woman above the age of 21, like her photo, but we can change it in AI and do whatever we want at that point,
Oh shoot.
and then we set the profile as like 14, 13 years old. That's usually the age we try to stick at, because more charges stick at the age of 13. Rather, if I did a 16-year-old in New York, I mean, they would look at me like I'm crazy if the cops showed up, which is still pretty disgusting, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind of,
wild.
and we always have to wait for them to contact us first, and then after they contact us, there's a few rules we have to stick with. So we can't be sexual. we can't entice them because we are always teetering the lines of a sting operation versus entrapment.
Right.
So we always want to like, try to look through that very well. Yeah, so we don't ever send naked photos. The only things we'll ever send is above the shoulders and then like feet photos. And I know, yeah, it's nasty. And but that's what they ask for, and it's what gets them here. And we're allowed to do phone calls, but all this stuff has to be recorded from front to back, or none of
Uh-huh.
it gets taken seriously
Right.
when it comes down to evidence.
Okay. Like how often are you getting asked for feet photos?
Oh, like multiple times a week. And it's
Oh
not, and
my
that's
God.
not even like the worst of it. Like we've seen some pretty bad things. I know a lot of the decoyers when they get sent like am I allowed to just say words on here? Like you're not going to get banned on
Absolutely.
YouTube? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Some of the decoyers have gotten like CP sent to them, which is child pornography, or
Hmm.
as they'll call it online, cheese pizza. And yeah, they've gotten that sent to them, and that's kind of startling. They usually should take a break after that. And then you also get other things like diapers and other random fetishes and things you wouldn't even think of. So it's pretty mind-boggling. Because I feel like
That
once
bring
they reach to the
Yeah.
kink of children, they kind of just going anywhere at that point with anything.
You're so far off the reservation at that point. It's like what's to constrain you from doing anything?
Exactly. Yeah, they're kind of just everywhere.
That's I'm gonna try and do my best to restrain my anger as we go through this because as a
No,
dad,
of
like
course.
it's supernatural, but not supernatural as in like Superman, super space natural for me
Yeah.
to feel this way. But that brings up a really interesting question for me. How do you kind of build a backstop into it for you, both from like you said, like you're getting sent this super explicit content yourself? Because I've always thought about like the law enforcement has to sit. I don't know if you saw the movie Sound of Freedom, right?
Oh, I
And it's
love
like you
it.
got, yeah, dude, I watched it. I sent my kids to bed and I watched it, and I think it's probably one of like maybe three films that I had to put the movie on pause, get up, go take a break, wind down, come back, pick it up. Like there was a few points like that for me in there,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
but I've always wondered about these guys that have to sit and they have to go through the evidence. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, how do you separate that and then go home at the end of the day and be a normal person again? After you've had to look at this stuff because somebody has to categorize it.
Mhm.
So how do
It's
you guys do that?
I mean, everybody's got their own like vices and their own ways to, kind of wind down, work off these things. Sometimes, I'd say for the most part, I'm kind of like trying to text these guys, from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at least like somewhat consistently, like a normal kid would. But then, the kid goes to bed at 10, wakes up at 10, whatever, has school. So I try to take those breaks, but it's kind of hard to like take, some nights I want to just like turn off the phone at like 6 p.m. and just like relax with my girlfriend, get pizza, drinks. But I, then these guys will block you the next morning, or you can't take a day or two off these guys because then you lose whoever you're speaking to. So it's kind of, we try to go out here and there. We get dinner a lot. I only spend time really with my female, so I kind of just enjoy that. But yeah, you're right. You definitely got to look for ways to unwind after. There's got to be some times where you just turn it off and put it to the side. No matter what you lose from it, because it kind of hurts because you see these guys, you see what they're saying and doing, and you don't want to put it down. You don't want to lose them, but you do have to look out for yourself at the end of the day because if you're not looking out for yourself, then you can't do this.
Yeah.
So.
How do you build a backstop in it on the other side so you don't go too far? You know.
Um, Basically, like I said, just having those vices, having a way at the end of the
Yeah.
night, like, having a TV show to watch, hanging out with my girlfriend, definitely a few drinks at the end of the night, like just something to, really unwind and, be like, all right, good day, you do what you got to do. But
Right.
for the most part, I mean, I've already had like a number of pretty grotesque things sent to me. I've seen, photos of two women, assaulting a dog. And I've seen, I saw a dude send a photo of his 13-year-old, and her bottom half. And that was his daughter he sent the photo of. It made me cry. I had to report it to to the tip line, Crime Stoppers, and all that. And like we do our due diligence, yes, but like those types of guys, it hurts me because like I haven't been answering him just because I don't want to see that stuff again. Like I don't want to have to because I feel like that's as far as it could go for me. If I get sent anything further, I'm gonna have to take like a month or two hiatus, and I'm
Now,
the only one that's decoying for us, so I don't want to take any hiatuses.
backing up to the how, you talked about like all the different apps. Like, what are the kind of like red flag apps that a lot of this stuff is happening on that you notice?
Well, for parents, I mean, yeah, they should definitely be on their kids' phones, checking these apps, staying up to date with all these. I mean, if you see like a bunch of calculator apps, um, there's no reason to get a calculator app. You already have a calculator on your phone. If there's a
Mm,
calculator app, you should look into it, because that's a barrier for where they hide photos, they hide explicit images. And I remember being a kid and having the calculator app and hiding, all types of stuff like photos of me smoking weed or whatever.
mm,
But kids don't know any better. That's why we got to be there and we got to stop them when they're doing silly things. So the
right.
calculator apps, Meet 24, Meet Me. Um, if your kid's under the age of 15, 16, he or she should not have Snapchat. They should not have. I mean, Kick was a kids app. Get your kids off of it. And then Roblox too, of course. Roblox is just its own. We could talk about that for hours. What they're doing on there is just it's sinful.
Well, I wish you would. We covered it on a live stream a while ago because there was that big Roblox streamer that started doing what you guys are doing, but inside of Roblox specifically. And for his troubles, Roblox banned him. Like he took this
Yeah,
stuff to
schlep.
Roblox. There it is. Yeah, Schlep. Thank you. The name was escaping me. So, being that this is your area of expertise, would you mind spending a little bit of time on that and just like walk through, like from the predator side, like how they're doing it?
Yeah, of course, I'd love to. So, Roblox is basically for anybody who doesn't really know. I've never played the game myself, but I've just gotten very familiar on it recently. But it's basically a game to where it's kind of styled like Minecraft, but there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more creativity. You can make your own little games within it, and you could, just build and really create anything. And a lot of times people create real world scenarios, real world places, real world events. And honestly, for kids, it's a very cool, creative app, but for the most part, it's not being used like that anymore. There are certain rooms and games that you have to pay to get into, and you know, directly Roblox takes 30% of what you pay to get into these games, even though you're paying a different creator. There's something called the Robux, and say for every 100% of the Robux that are being spent on a game within the game, 30% of it goes right to Roblox. So Roblox is directly profiting off anything that is going on within the game, whether it's the actual game itself, the games in it, or the interactions of the players. They are always profiting off it. And some of these games could be as lighthearted as like Manhunt, recreations of other games. But now we're seeing, I'm not sure if you're familiar. Have you seen this yet? But the recreations of the Charlie Kirk death.
No, I didn't know that was going on in there. But I like to say very few things surprise me anymore. But
Mm-hmm. It's there's some where they're almost like just cartoon video gameish, and then there's some where they're almost very lifelike, very VR-ish. And you could play as the shooter, you could play as Charlie Kirk, you could play as a fan, and that's just one of like the very terrible games they have on there. And again, Roblox is directly profiting off children seeing this. This is a game that's directly, imaged for children. The people are made out of blocks. Like
mhm.
it's not for adults. And then there's other things where there's people that are going through Roblox, certain groups that are they get these kids to they basically sextort them. They scare them with privacy information. They get them to send them all types of images. They can get them to assault themselves, like, mutilate. There's a lot of cases of that going on. I forgot the specific group that was doing it through Roblox, but
Is it the
they
764 group?
yes, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it was. Yeah,
Yeah, we,
and
we we had another guest to cover just that side specifically, and that stuff is demonic as far as I'm concerned. I'm not trying to be like use the buzzwords, but I don't know another word to use for that.
no, that's pure evil. Yeah, yeah. Getting kids to mutilate themselves and all that is just it's insane. They get them to like burn their houses down, kill pets. And these kids, they're like, they're 9, they're 8 years old. They don't know. Like they think someone's about to come to their house, kill their whole family. Would make sense to just kill the family cat and get it over with, but obviously they don't know any better. And then they also have games within Roblox where kids can directly send photos of themselves, naked, obviously, to these guys in the game, asking for it. And like you said, there's just a lot of extortion. There's sextortion. There's all types of terrible things happening on Roblox. It needs to be focused. We need to focus on the creators and who's implementing this, who's allowing this. Not now, I see that they're doing payouts for people, and you could sign up, and you might be compensated. That's that doesn't help anybody. Just handing out money. We need to just stop it where it's happening. Is what I believe, at least.
Well, 100%. IP addresses are a thing. Digital forensics are a thing. You can't tell me
Hmm.
if the FBI, right, wasn't interested in this, they couldn't subpoena, right, get a warrant, go to Roblox and be like, "Show me your data. I'm gonna
Hmm.
find these dudes." Like they could, and this is one of those things where it's like I feel like maybe the problem just hasn't broken out into the open enough. And
I
when it
mean,
doesn't, like if the law, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If
no,
the
no, no.
law
You're good. I was cutting you off.
if yeah, if the law doesn't step in and provide law and order, then that's where you get vigilante justice, like hello Donnie, right? But you guys are going about doing it the right way, right? Like obviously you're not
Yes.
just walking up to a dude on the street and like capping his knees with a baseball bat and like, oh, you like to touch little kids, huh? And then like, killing him. Like I get it. As much as fun as that would be to watch,
I'd love
right?
to. I just don't want to go to
I know.
jail.
As fun as that would be to watch, like you guys are going about it responsibly, right?
Yes.
But what were you going to say, bro?
No, yeah, I was agreeing with you. It's just like you said, it's got to reach a certain, maybe it's got to reach a certain atmosphere to actually like get some sort of headlines, but it's already reached guys like JD on. Chris Hansen is now involved in it. It's just I don't know who else it could reach at that point to where it's going to finally get taken seriously. I think Roblox is just always going to be a game that does this, and sadly, we're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Well, I think there's things that we could do about it, but
No, of course,
I
yeah.
think it's more well, what I was going to say is maybe not at like well, it would eventually reach the societal level, but this just takes parents being involved in their kids' lives and like
Hmm.
being responsible parents and like looking out after them. Um, so you got all these ridiculous, terrible, you know, monsters running around in Roblox building these awful games like you were talking about. How are they like establishing that much of a connection with their, let's just call it their target, like quickly enough in order to get them to do this, right? There's to my understanding there's like an isolation that has to happen before the kid is
Yes.
like able to be kind of groomed, for lack of a better word, because that's
Hmm.
the correct word for this. Like how does that process take place?
So basically there is I would like to say that there's not just like a rubric of grooming written out online, but there's lots of ways to find actual, they call them grooming Bibles, and you could find them, in many places, even as little as Reddit. And basically there's a certain rubric to it. There's steps. Basically they look out for certain things. So kids with no siblings, trans kids, kids who are already isolated from society, friends, homeschooled kids. They look for kids with only mothers, working parents. So that's why our decoys never have siblings. They never have a father. They have a mother that works all the time. So a little more, enticing, I guess, but it shouldn't be enticing. But these are the things that they look for, and then they'll ask you, it's very interesting to do the decoying myself too, because I really get to learn a lot about how they think,
Mm-hmm.
and I see a lot of the same questions from a lot of them, like how's your relationship with your mom? Oh, are you guys not close? Like, is no one looking out for you? Is no one pampering you? Like, I've gotten multiple of those just this week, and it's just I feel like not even a lot of them are looking up how do I groom a child. I think it's just something in our human nature that like either some people use it as a maternal instinct, and like when we see a child, like if me and you are walking down the street and we see a kid, we want to make sure that kid's like okay, no one's like bothering them, talking to them. But these guys, they kind of they groom them, move towards a certain direction with it. And I think it's just disgusting. There's definitely a rubric for it. There's definitely a way that they all try to stick to, and there's things that they look for. So those are the things that parents should look out for. If any parents are watching this, they kind of have those traits. If they're a single mother, a single father, if they work a lot, if they don't go on their kids' phones a lot, you know, be a helicopter parent. Don't give your kid privacy. They don't need privacy. If they're hanging out with their friends and they're in the room just chilling, and that's a different type of privacy. But they should not have privacy on the phone. Like I heard this one thing recently: when you give your kid a phone, you're not opening them. You're not giving them the world. You're giving them to the world.
Mm.
You're putting them out there. So
Yeah, that's man, I really like that saying. Yeah, that's a really good way to say it. So, all right, so staying on the how you guys operate and how this stuff works. So you guys are doing your decoying, right? And then eventually somewhere in there, they're going to ask you to meet up somewhere, right? It's typically how it works. Like once they make
yeah,
the initiation, then now we're kind of on to let's call it like stage two, like actions on the objective. Like you're going to start planning for that, right?
right. Yeah, like
So,
time,
so
place.
cool. So can you kind of walk me through that process and how that works for you guys?
Yeah, so of course, so like after that initial stage of like getting to know each other, asserting the age, and then them pursuing it, like now we know that they want it, they're still texting us. There's usually there's three main things that we try to get out of them that will ensure an arrest in New York specifically, and that would be a naked image of themselves, them trying to get a naked image of us, and then them orchestrating a time, a place, and like what they're gonna do at that time and place. And then if they show up there with all that, that's everything. That should be a slam dunk. So that's really what we try to. And then once we get those three things, now we're like, okay, now it's a investigation time. Now we're going on Facebook, we're going on Instagram, Truth Finder. We're sending the number out to some of our other search engines who help us out, and we're trying to figure out an address, mother's names, anything that could just be one thing that leads to the other. One time we had a guy who we couldn't figure anything out on, but he owned his own bakery, and he had his face was the logo of the bakery. So he was wearing his shirt one day, and boom, that's all we needed. And from there we found the Facebook, we found his real name thereon. And then once we get all that information, we do try to get them to like you said, invite us out, come meet us. But sometimes they'll block us. They won't. They're too scared, or
Mm.
they'll only just want photos of a child. They don't actually want to meet children. So a lot of the time, it's us figuring out where they are, and we just go right to their front door.
Mm. But as long as you were able, like you said, as long as you were able to catch them trying to solicit you for CP, it's like if I can bring the police to your door, like there it is. Here's the guy. Here's the evidence, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, we actually got this one guy where he's 60 years old, and he's been chatting our decoy for weeks now about just her feet and other weird things like that, but he hasn't sent any images. He hasn't asked for sex or anything like that. But I mean, we're still like, we're contemplating, like, because we would definitely call the police if we went and confronted him. But like, as soon as the police get there, I'm gonna tell them, like, listen, like, I know this is no arrest here, but we still want to give him the exposure. Like, he deserves that at least, because
Yeah.
this child he's texting and he's not gonna meet, but the next one he's gonna meet. So
Um, I'd like to talk about sort of maybe and only for context, not for sensationalism, but I just want people to kind of understand kind of what you're going through, right? So maybe can you tell us? I would like to like maybe like one of the most successful stories you've had, and kind of just like walk through the whole thing with us from like decoying through setting them up and like how it transpired in the end. I kind of like to hear like just one of your like here's a trophy on the wall that we got.
um oh yeah, I like that. I would definitely say it would have to be. uh, either my first one, like my first catch, decoying catch, or I actually, I did catch a child pornography trader while I was still in the military. Without, this was years ago too. I wasn't like a pred catcher or nothing. This was way before all this. But I definitely, I do consider it like one of my catches, I guess. And it was definitely
Mm,
like, it's definitely something I always think back to. But I guess I'll tell that story. So we basically, I was sent to, I don't know, I'm not sure if you know what a Lima company is, but it's basically a company that guys were guys that are medically hurt, guys that
mm,
are in trouble, all types
sure.
of shit, guys getting sent home, go there. So I
Yep.
got sent
We
there,
call
and
them
I was,
like we call them like gray platoons, dudes that are like,
yeah,
hey, these guys are all getting out, right? Yeah,
yeah, kind of just, yeah, like the unbloused type guys. So,
yeah,
so I was sent there for 4 months, which isn't a terrible stint. I know guys that have been there for 2 years, so
yeah,
it
yeah, for
was,
sure.
it, yeah, it's not too, it wasn't too terrible. I didn't mind it, and I still wanted to be like there, so I still loved it. I didn't mind being there. I didn't mind like doing things. A lot
Hmm.
of guys that are in a platoon like that, they're very, they're in the rack all day. They're playing video games. They're letting
Mm,
themselves go. They're not working out. So I was always very like angry about like the attitude around me, and it kind of like I felt like it kind of caused me to be like, kind of like I always tried to just like I don't know, like I just didn't like those guys. So like as soon as like I got the vibe from one of those guys, I was very pushed off. I didn't talk to them. I didn't deal with them. Nothing. So there was this one guy that came in, and he at the time was 22. I was 19, or no, I was 20. So I was 20. He was 22, and he came in, and he was basically there for some sort of fight with a sergeant. So I don't know how long he was going to be there, but I think he was getting out because of that. And he just always gave me such a weird vibe, like when you just have like that feeling about someone, and like
yeah,
the dude just icks you out. Yeah, you don't want him anywhere near you. And I think it came from one time I heard him talking about like his kid, and he was just saying like I hate that piece of shit, like talking about a 2-year-old like that, like I can't stand that fucker. So I just like it kind of amazed me because like I'd be so lucky to have a kid. I would feel so lucky to have one. So I never liked him from the start about that. And it that always just kind of grew, that like resentment towards him, and he wasn't really doing anything specific to like piss me off or really ick me out at that point. But I just always had a problem with him. It was like late one night, I was just in my rack looking at my phone. Most people were sleeping, and I hear him like going on about something on the phone with someone, and he's talking about like Snapchat passwords, something like that. So I was like hearing in on it, and I'm thinking like, oh shit, like light bulb, like he must be a hacker. Like that's what it is. That's what's icking me out. Like there's
mm,
something weird about him. I knew it. Like I just don't know anything about hacking or laptops. At the time I didn't, at least. So I was going on leave the next day, so I told two guys in the group and like in the platoon, I told them like, listen, like that Braden kid, he's acting hella weird. Like he's talking about Snapchat passwords. I think he's a hacker. You guys try to get close with him while I'm gone, see what's going on. So I go home for 7 days. I come back,
So what
and
was your rank at the
I'm
time? I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, you're good. I was Lance Corporal.
You're Lance Corporal. That's E3, right?
Yes, sir.
Don't sir me, stop that right now. So you put together your little E3 E4 mafia, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
had a
good
little
stuff,
something.
dude.
It was great.
All
It was
right.
just so it was just
I was
like
I
two
was just
other.
wondering if we were dealing with like NCOs or Joes, and as soon as I was like, oh, I know exactly
No,
what's going on here, dude. This is how stuff gets taken care of right
I
here.
was
What
about
you're getting
this.
ready to talk about, yeah,
Yeah, this
I
is
love it,
this is
dude.
PFC actually.
I
Yeah, this is like
love it,
PFC
dude.
behavior. It's
I
crazy,
love
man.
it, dude. All right, please continue. So they're supposed to be like get to know this kid, get to gain his trust, kind of thing, like while
Yeah,
you're out. Gotcha.
and these two guys were like the troublemakers of the platoon, but they were like best friends. Like everybody knew them as like the duo. So I was like, they're perfect. They'll do whatever I ask. So they do it. I come back, and they're like stoked to tell me what they hear, and they're telling me that like he's got all this Bitcoin in an offshore account. He was showing them this. He was asking them like he should invest with them because he's buying and selling all these like things online, and they didn't really know yet. But like basically, he was this kid also had skimmers all throughout the Lima company in the vending machines and shit like that.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, so he was stealing our like debit card information and shit, and then selling it online. And he was buying and selling other debit card information. I don't know anything about that shit, but apparently there's a big world in it. There's,
Yeah.
and so he was doing all that. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh shit, like he's stealing all of our shit. Like, so I was pissed, and I was just holding out on it, trying to find a little more. So I end up finding out that I have another friend that's coming down in the platoon, and we were very close. So I knew that I could just ask him to do me a favor. And I basically asked him, I need you to invest like $70 into this kid, whatever he's doing. I'll give you the money for it. He's
Uh-huh.
going to use it that night. And then the next day, I need you to ask for it right back. And he's not going to give it back to you. That will give me the chance to come over and just, I was just going to beat his ass and then give the laptop over to the deck lead and then let him take it on.
A
And
simple
so,
plan. I like it. Not too many moving pieces, but
no,
the
yeah,
workings of
exactly.
your
Just some,
first sting. All right, I got it,
right, yeah,
dude.
right. And it's cool. You could do it like that in a place like
Yeah,
that. So,
for sure. Yeah.
so we do that. So now I'm sitting by my rack. I'm waiting. I hear them like going back and forth. He's like, bro, I don't got your money. They're going back and forth. I go over there. Now I'm involved, and I'm trying to like keep it cool because like I just know like, I know what he's doing, and I'm not telling other people
Mhm.
because I'm not like trying to like let it get out yet. So because most of these guys probably just got a kill switch. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm getting on his business. I'm telling him like, yo, bro, if you don't give him his money back right now, I'm gonna have to kick your ass. And I'm just getting on it, and he's telling me like, bro, I don't got the money, like this and that. So I just start swinging on him in the rack. I'm getting really on him. During the commotion, the laptop breaks. So that kind of lost that there. But as it gets into the middle of the racks, we're now in the hallway, we get broken up. And I'm like telling the deck lead, like, he's stealing debit card information. Like, I'm like outing him at this moment after just like beating him up a little bit. I'm trying to just like put him on blast. I'm like, take his laptop right now. They grabbed the laptop, but it was broken. So that didn't really go anywhere. And I also found out that like, so the next morning he's kicked out of our deck. We don't want him living there anymore. He moves down to deck one, which is basically like the injured guys. So anybody who can't really walk upstairs, those are
Mhm.
the guys that are on deck one. So that's where he was. And he got let in there by the deck lead, who at the time I was friends with, who I really liked, but I didn't like him for letting him live there. And then I found out that next day when I went in there to like let the deck lead know, like, yo, this is what he's doing. This is why we kicked him out. So you guys shouldn't let him live here. I found out that he was doing this with him, like on the laptop, helping him steal credit card information.
The
And
deck lead from downstairs.
yeah, and he
Oh
was like,
shit.
when I saw him, he was like stoked to tell me. He's like, bro, like you got to get on this too. Like, don't like, don't just hate him. I'm like, yo, are you kidding me? So I was turned off to him right at that moment. I walked off. I was up on my deck, and so basically a day or two pass. I'm livid as all hell. I don't know how to get to him. He's just hiding down on deck one. And when I went down there to talk to the deck lead that day, I saw that that kid Braden was on a laptop again, and I was like, "There's just no." I just broke his laptop, so that's when we found out he had a second laptop. And
Mhm.
that's just for anybody who's like in the early ranks of military, you can't afford one laptop. So two laptops is insane. You should not have two laptops.
Right.
So
Homeboy had a
when
backup
I
though.
yeah, a backup is crazy. So I didn't even have a first laptop at the time, so I knew he was up to no good. And so fast forward like 2 days now, I'm still contemplating where to go with this. That deck lead, his name was Day. So Day basically comes up to my deck like a day or two after this. I'm telling him like, "Yo, get off! I got nothing I got to say to you. I don't like you. I don't want you here. Get off my fucking deck." He basically he's like, I got to talk to you. Like, I want to talk to you about something. Come on to the hallway. I go out to the hallway with him. He apologizes. He's like, yo, I know you're not happy with me about this. Like, yes, I was like stealing money with him, but like he was trying to tell me that he wasn't stealing money from anybody here, just in offshore accounts or whatever. I didn't believe it. But then he starts showing me his private messaging app with the kid Braden. And Braden was texting him saying that he's got a few links that if they buy and resell, they can make big bucks. And then Day clicked on the links, saw that they were cheese pizza, child pornography, whatever you want to call it, and he was like real scared off by it. And Braden admitted that he's been buying and selling them for a while. That's how he makes a lot of money from this. So, and it was talked about that he had, I forgot the Bitcoin, but it was over 300K in like the offshore account. I don't know the exact Bitcoin for that, but it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars he had stuck there. And so now I'm finding this out. It's blowing my mind. Like this is the first ever time I've ever even heard like, you know, child pornography being talked up in front of me. Like at this, I'm still 20. Like, I
Yeah.
was a child 2 years before that. So, he's telling me he's sorry. Like, he wants nothing to do with this now. Like, he made a mistake getting involved with this kid. I could tell, like Day has a kid. So, you know what I mean? Like I knew he was like kind of a dirtbag. Like, he was a YN, but he wasn't like, a real, he wasn't evil. So, like, when he found this out, he came to me
What's
and I was
hold
basically like,
on.
listen,
What's a YN?
like, you don't know what they're like the YNs in the city? Like a
No, what's
young
that?
nigga?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right, now that'll probably have to get bleeped on YouTube, but not
I was
not on
about to
Rumble.
say.
Rumble, it's good to go. No, you got me
Rumble
on that
don't
one. I
care.
was like, nah, I didn't know it, dude. I was a
I thought you
pastor's
just
kid.
wanted
I
me to
grew up
say
in
it.
no, I was a pastor's kid. I grew up in central Wisconsin. You got me on that one, man.
Oh yeah, there's no YNs in Wisconsin. That's funny.
No, not a lot of
That's
corn.
funny, man.
Not one of those.
Yeah, you ever
Maybe
come out to New
Milwaukee.
York City? They're everywhere.
Maybe Milwaukee. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry that derailed it.
No, you're good. But yeah,
uh,
but yeah, like I said, he was, he's one of those guys, but he wasn't like evil or nothing. He was just, so he's basically, so I'm telling him like, listen, like if you help me get this laptop in one piece out of his hands without
mhm.
him deleting anything, I say nothing about you, and we'll just go to the staff sergeants and show them like, yo, me and Day grabbed his laptop. You know what I mean? No, you have nothing to do with it at that point. So he agrees. We suffice some plan where he convinces Braden to go back up to his original deck, which is my deck, to pull stuff out of I forgot what the underneath of the rack is called, but they're gonna lift that up. The
Your
coffin.
yeah, your Footlocker.
Yeah. The footlocker's at the end, but whatever it is, same shit.
Yeah.
So they go in there, and basically when Dave's gonna be on one side, I'm gonna come around the other side, and then we're just be like, yo, give me the laptop.
Hmm.
So they're up there. I come around the other side. Now Braden sees that he's not just with Day, he's with me and Day, and he hasn't seen me in a few days at this point. So he already knows like what's about to happen. So
Hmm.
me and him are like, "Yo, get up! Like we need the laptop." At this point, he won't get the laptop's there, but he won't give us the key or whatever to it. So and we wanted the key so we can go downstairs with it opened and just give it to the staff sergeants, and he wouldn't give it to us. So basically, at this point, the rest of the deck has heard this. They all kind of gathered. They're looking around, and me and Day are just like we're smacking him like back and forth, just throwing him back and forth to each other, just trying to get the passcode out of him. Because I already saw the links on Day's phone. I knew it for a
Right.
fact what he was doing, and I was livid. I was like, "You have a fucking kid." Like, this is my first time seeing this shit in
Yeah.
person. I bet you can imagine being in the barracks if you found out one of your guys was doing this shit. You'd fuck, you guys would kill him. So it's just, so he was really getting it.
Something like
We
that.
busted his eye, his nose. All this shit was all fucked up. The cops came. Um, I forgot what it was. Either the FBI. Yeah, I think the FBI, NCIS, something came down to go through the laptop and all that shit. A
Yeah.
bunch of people gave statements of what they saw and what they heard, but for the most part, I was arrested that day for assault.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask if you got out scot free. No, you didn't.
No,
But
no, yeah,
I would still say you did the right thing.
no,
Methods,
yeah,
methods notwithstanding, but you definitely did the right thing. Right result achieved in the end for sure.
and they did end up finding stuff on his laptop. He was sent home for protection during that time after that, but he was called right back within a week, and now he's facing charges. So he's still over there facing charges for that.
Good. That's good,
Yeah.
man.
So God
That's
bless.
dude. I knew where this story was going when you said like me, the Lance Corporal, and I got my buddies together. I was like, this gonna get good, and it did not disappoint, dude. I love it.
No, it's always
I,
something.
Dude, I love it all the way up to where it's just like, like you're gonna give me the laptop or I'm gonna break your face. And then you're gonna give me I love it, dude. I love everything about your story. Yeah, no, that's
Appreciate that,
great.
man.
Um, so from kind of that high, maybe, and the only reason I'm asking is because like I kind of want people out there to see maybe how bad it can get. Can you give us maybe like so far your worst, and it could be worst because it's like I wish I hadn't been involved in that. Kind of what I saw was maybe too much for me, or maybe a got away, or anything like that. But maybe like one that's disappointed you the most so far that you've been involved with.
Um, I mean, living in New York and doing this, it's always disappointing. Like I said, 4 arrests, and some of them are still pending, 15 catches. But the most disappointing, I'd have to say was we caught a Suffolk district attorney employee, not a district attorney, but a district
Oh, okay.
attorney employee.
Yeah.
But and we caught him. He was attempting to have a 14-year-old trans girl come over his home for cross dressing. He sent her photos of videos of him ejaculating, all sorts of gross things. Him in lingerie. And if you saw this guy walking down the street, it's like some 54, like muscle shirt wearing like Hispanic wop. So I was very, surprised to see this
I
type of guy
actually
doing that stuff.
I actually know what WAP means, so I'm not going to ask you to say
I was waiting for you to ask. I was like, shit.
that.
I would have said
No, I know
wops.
that one.
That's funny.
No, you're good. But anyway, yeah, no, please continue. So you saw him, if you were to see him walking down the street, obviously, right?
Yeah, you
So,
wouldn't think it. Yeah. So
right.
and yeah, 54 years old, grown man, looks masculine, works in the district's attorney's office. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but that's what gets called every time one of these cases or we have something
Hmm.
like this. They call them to see if they're going to accept it. And I'd say like 80% of the time in New York, they're not accepting shit. It doesn't even reach there. So, we
Well, I
didn't even
wonder
know
why
he
now.
exactly right. It makes you think. And, we didn't even know he was in the district's attorney's office till the interview when he fucking told us. Like, we're like, oh, where do you work? And he says it like it's nothing. And, the cops that arrive on scene, they were, a few of them were pretty young and they kind of already recognized the guy I was with. So the pred catcher, not the predator himself. So they were kind of like excited to do this, and they were giving it to him. They were like, "Yeah, you shouldn't be doing this, bro. Like, doesn't matter." Because the guy was saying like, "Oh, I just get drunk, that's why I do this." And the cops were really giving it to him, and it was looking good for a second. And and then they make a few phone calls. A few detectives come, and they tell us basically like, "All right, we're gonna see what we could do with this." For weeks I'm trying, I'm calling Suffolk, I'm calling Nassau, I'm trying to get something going. Those are both counties in Long Island, those are the 2 counties. So I'm calling
Hmm.
all the police stations, I'm trying to get something going. I finally, they're telling me that because we were banned off the Grinder app, they can't take any chat logs and use any of them, which is ridiculous because there was like 4 chats sent on Grinder, and then everything else we moved over to text right away. And they could easily take the number, track it back to his phone. He used his real number. He used his real
Yeah.
name. He sent us his real address. I made him go outside and take a photo of his front door before I went there. Like I had
Oh,
it
right.
on a silver platter.
Right.
And sorry for getting worked up. This one just pisses me off though. And
No, that's
they make those
it's
phone calls, and then nothing happens, and it's making me think like they probably called some sort of fucking district's attorney's office, whatever. So now they're telling me that there's nothing they can do with my evidence. This is gonna go nowhere. I say fuck it. I call the Suffolk district's attorney's office like a month and a half later after the initial catch. They have never heard anything of this. They sent me a form to fill out, like a tip form on a public official who did some sort of sexual harassment. As I'm filling out the form, like 30 minutes in, they actually call me. There's a few detectives in the room. They want to hear what happened. they haven't heard of this yet, which I was pissed that NASA didn't relay this information, which goes to show you that our evidence was taken, but it wasn't logged.
Hmm.
This wasn't, this was labeled as a disturbance, which happens more often. And it's ridiculous because they'll take our evidence and then they'll label something as a disturbance. What are you doing with my evidence and what's it going in as? Like disturbance?
Hmm.
Never it's going to get looked at then. So, there's no point to even take our evidence in some situations. But with the Daniel Marsigliano case, as soon as the Suffolk District Attorney's Office heard about it, they suspended him on spot and he was ended up being fired 2 weeks later. But then Nassau calls me and they're breathing down my neck now. They're all mad that I didn't, that I went right to Suffolk and I didn't, go through them. And I'm mad that, they had a month and a half to do their due diligence and they didn't. So then I went ahead and I at least exposed him to his job to get him out of there. And it was just really like, it was like disappointing in the way where it's like, okay, these cases don't get accepted. They don't get accepted by the district's attorney's office. That's who we just got caught. Like, that's who we just caught. And of course, we knew it wasn't going to get accepted. And it was just, and this guy, he lives above a family dental's office too. He invited this child to his home slash a family dental. And I forwarded all the evidence to them. They kicked him out, thank God. He now lives with his parents and he's unemployed. But he should be in prison. And
100%.
whoever took those phone calls that night and didn't forward this should be in prison because that's just corruption at its finest.
100%. Do you guys keep track of uh, your targets? We'll call them that. Like afterwards to see what happens.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. And then we also like call family members. We call them just
Hmm.
to see. Like I found out about Daniel. I already knew Daniel was unemployed just from the following up with the police and all that.
Gotcha.
But sometimes we'll just randomly call them and just see if we can get a conversation out of them.
Hmm. That's wild to me what you said about them filing things away as a disturbance. Would it be a fair assessment to say that it's a way of appeasing you to be like, yeah, sure, we'll take your evidence, and then as soon as they classify it as a disturbance, they can basically turn around and be like,
Yeah,
I could just throw it in
100%.
a waste bin, right? So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
don't care. That is so. Again, I like to say that I'm not surprised when I hear things, but it's like, and then so look at the level that you're doing at, right? You're doing this work at, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, people are talking about the Epstein list is huge, and it's like if you think that it's hard to get a district attorney to take it seriously when you're bringing it to them and you're like, I've got everything on this no name dickwad,
Mm-hmm.
and they still won't look at it. It's like, is there any wonder why we keep saying like you're never going to see the Epstein list? Do you know the level of people that are entangled in that
Mm-hmm.
up there? It's so. I mean, it's infuriating, and also this is like one of those things where it's like, bro, don't. And I'm talking to myself when I say it's like, bro, just put it down, go outside, touch grass, hug your kids. Like you're not going to solve everything. You got to keep your sanity a little bit. But yeah, man, I understand why people get blackpilled, and I understand why the sentiment is like nothing's ever going to change, and there's two sets of law, one for them up there and one for us down here. It's like I get it, dude. I totally get it. Um, you mentioned earlier about you got a chance to work with some higher level dudes kind of in your field. Can you talk about that for a
Yeah.
little bit? Like who have you gotten to work with and maybe like how they run shop or like kind of what you've learned from them and have implemented for yourself or just kind of that direction?
Yeah, of course. So I've actually I'm honestly blessed the way like my first catch, I was very much instructed by like other catchers who have already had like 30, 40,000 subscribers. So like
Oh,
Predator
cool.
Poachers, which is like the nationwide branch, they have altogether they have probably close to like 1,000 catches. But the main guy, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Gordon Flowers with the big red beard.
Okay.
He's probably got like 500 catches, and then he's got all of his branches: Toronto, Illinois, Washington, and then Long Island, which is where I'm from. That's the first pred catcher I ever met personally, and I always watched him. So we went from like me watching him to me doing these catches with him, and now we're just close friends. But I've had just a lot of great influence from the start from him. I've gotten the chance to decoy for a lot of other catchers like PP Illinois even before I started doing catches.
Sure.
And then I've also I decoy a lot for 561 PC, which is out in Florida. That's run by Dustin Lampros, who's a professional fighter too. So he's a fucking awesome guy. He's also best friends with I'm not sure who you're familiar with Zero Day, Ryan Montgomery.
I'm not, but
No, he's
I'm sure somebody watching this will be, so that's why I wanted you to talk about it.
yeah, he's like that professional hacker that like went on the Sean Ryan podcast and spoke about all that.
Oh, yes. Now that you say that, I
Something
put a
like that.
face with the
Yeah.
name. Yeah. Yep.
That always gets everybody. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. So he actually helped start 561 PC, but now
Gotcha.
he's off doing his own thing. So I decoy for them. And then I've also recently gotten to work with JD on, which was like a huge honor. So
Dude, that's awesome, man. Is
thank you.
what have you learned from him? First of all, I imagine that kind of like being in the military, it's like you have to have fellow friends that are either vets or are active duty. You know what I mean? Because there's things about being in the military that only other military guys are going to get, and so you have like a closer camaraderie with them. It's not to say you can't have civilian friends, but it's like you got to have your homies in the military or vet community, so you can talk
Yeah.
about some of the stuff. I imagine that it's like that in your guys' small community too, because you're doing such a niche thing and you're up against like such just just absolute evil that the only other person that's maybe going to understand is like somebody that kind of does it too. So I would imagine it would make for a very kind of close circle of friends, especially for the guys that do it right. You guys are doing
Yeah.
it for the right reason, not just for the clicks and the social media clout. You know what I mean? But no, is the I'd like to learn or maybe ask you about some of the lessons that you learned from them because you're just getting started. You're off to a really
Mhm.
good start, but you've already kind of like played with the guys in pro ball, as it were. So it's like, what kind of lessons did you take away from them, like right from the get go, as you were getting into this?
Um, Basically just like, I got to see right away that, you could say the wrong thing and you could, whatever you're on your own when you do this. So if you say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing, you're the only one that's going to be dealing with those repercussions. So, you always got to hold yourself to a certain standard. I didn't really do my first catch till I felt like I was ready to stand in front of someone and hear them say these things and not react physically.
Right.
And the first
You
few, I
can't
felt
you
like
can't
so.
punch them in the face and take their laptop, right? You
No,
got to
you
do it. You got to
know,
do it right this time.
it would be awesome if you could just go around punching faces and take
I
laptops,
mean,
but
trust me, dude. Like the amount of times I've wanted to go super bad, or not super bad, but what was the one about the kid that he can't feel pain or whatever, so he became like the superhero. I can't remember the name of the movie now. Somebody in the chat will remember when this episode goes live. But Kick Ass, there it is. Sometimes I want
kick
to go
ass,
around and be
yeah.
just like Kick Ass, dude. But world don't work that way, and a lot of times, especially like the Daniel Penny case in New York, what we find is the Good Samaritan oftentimes is going to eat the cost of it, like you
Hmm.
did. You got still brought up on assault, because you were still in the Corps
Yeah.
at the time. But a lot of times, yeah, it's the hero that ends up taking the fall. So a lot of people don't even want to step up and do something like what you're doing. But yeah, when you guys go up there, like maybe actually unpack that a little bit. Like what can you do and you can't do in order to see like maximum justice come to these guys when you do the catch, as you call it.
Yeah, so basically, there if this really does go to trial, you got to think like their attorney is going to say into everything like any attorney would. So they're going to say that they felt forced, they felt coerced, they felt like they were pressured to say or do anything. So right away, I've seen I've seen guys like JD on, he really tries to reassure them in like his own way, and he's very like playful and silly, and he like gives
Hmm.
out hugs and shit. And then there's guys and then there's guys like Alex Rosen who just cracks a few jokes. He has like
Yeah,
his own certain like I don't know for like such a big dude. You do feel very comfortable around him, like talking to him. So
sure.
so you just got to say things. You got to say things like hey, can we have a conversation? You can't tell them things. You can't tell them what to do. You can't tell them
Mm-hmm.
stay here. So I always try to be like, hey, like, is it okay if we have a conversation? And when they talk to us, like they just for a second, they're all wrapped up. They don't know what to think, but all they're thinking is like, okay, hopefully he does just want to have a conversation. If I was wearing a badge, they wouldn't have a conversation with me. Even if they felt like they should, they wouldn't tell me everything they would tell me if I'm not wearing the badge. So I feel like that helps. And then, we'll say things like, let's step to the side. I don't want your family to hear. I don't want this, we'll almost like right away without saying it, try to reassure them in the fact that we want to keep this between me and you. I'll say things
Mm-hmm.
like, this child, she's, actually illegal. Her mother went through our organization because they don't want police involved. That's always a great one, so it's, yeah. So that's basically it. Just,
Got you. Can you tell me about some of your? I hesitate to say favorite because this is an awful, nasty business. But can you tell me about some of your best catches? You're like, dude, I nailed that one. Or like, give the folks a reason to go check out your Instagram channel where you post the reels of this stuff, so they can go see like what kind of work you're doing.
yeah, so like the one you mentioned before, that one, just the stars aligned on that one. So his name was fucking Steve Purrington, and he's the owner of a bakery, and he also worked for a wrestling organization, which was like catering, working at that event, that street fair, the video you saw. So basically, with that, we found out he was going to be there that day doing like security or whatever. So me and my buddy, we got together with the camera and all that. We got there, and we were posing as college students, doing a film documentary for our class. And basically, our documentary idea was, small business owners in Long Island chasing their dreams. So we already knew he was a small business owner, but we went up to him just thinking he was a security guard, like chit chatting with him. But so as we were walking up, like trying to figure out how to talk to him, how to like, single him out, he just
Yeah.
came up to me and my buddy and he's like, yo, wrestling show starts at whatever time. So right away we have a conversation with him. We get him over to the side. I have like 45 minutes of like just bullshit interview with this guy asking about his bakery, his grandmother, his heritage, all this shit.
Sure.
Knowing like I've been talking to this guy for 2 weeks. He thinks I'm a child. I've seen his dick like 9 times. And so it's very weird. But I was just very amped in the situation. I was like, holy shit! It took so much to get here to line this
Right.
up. Is going perfectly. So basically, we set it up as telling him that we're giving out gifts to these small business owners. We got 3 envelopes here. You pick your gift and you get to open it up. All 3 envelopes had Steve's dick in it, so we were just ready. And
That's why you
yeah, I
never play
mean,
3 card Monty, kids.
no, if anyone ever comes to you with envelopes, don't open one up. So
Uh,
yeah, so anyone can go on the Instagram, they can find that specific reel, or they can go on the YouTube, and it's the first 30 seconds of the video. But you see Steve, he picks out, I think, envelope two. He opens it, and you just see it in his face, like it just all drops, and he's closing it up, and he just knows. And I'm like, let me have a conversation with you real quick, like. And in that sense, I actually played it off that it was my sister, and I just want to keep it between us. But the stars really just aligned on that one, and it was also the first time I got a predator to admit to having CP on his phone, and I had no idea he had any CP. I just we were talking for 30 minutes. I got enough out of him, and I just thought to like, all the Alex Rosen videos I've seen, and I was just like, listen, man, I wouldn't already be here if I didn't know you already had, you know, child pornography sent to your IP address multiple times. And we got him to admit to, these videos of babies he has and all sorts of things. He describes the children as young as 2 to 3 years old. And it's heartbreaking, but as soon as he describes that you see in the video, I'm like, damn, that's fucking awful. I turn to my left, I see an officer walking by. I'm like, come over here, please. And it's just that's it. And now he's facing a grand jury indictment.
so you didn't. I thought watching that video that you had the officers staged. That officer was just there.
Yeah, it was a
Just
street fair. There's
just
officers everywhere.
it just worked out.
Yeah, yeah, the stars aligned on that video. That's all it was.
Or maybe God
Perfect.
was with you that day.
No, yeah, 100%. He's always with me.
Dude, that's well, yeah. I hope. I was gonna ask you if you guys like pray or anything before you got to do these catches, because like you're really like any one of these people could become immediately violent on you if they
Oh,
wanted.
100%.
You know.
Yeah, I've had predators where they drive off and they like bump me with their car. Like I didn't get like ran over, but they
Mm.
bump me. But yeah, I definitely do like a little prayer. Like it's just something quick right before each one. You probably see it in some of my videos. I do the sign of the cross. But
Hmm.
like that Bible verse you were talking about before, that's actually my favorite one, Matthew 18:6. You know, he who offends, you know, should have a millstone wrapped around his neck, etc. So, you
Yeah.
know, I just always I should pray more, but man, even last night I'll admit like I prayed a little extra just because I'm just just my life has changed a lot in the last 3 months in such a good way. Like I
Yeah.
never thought I'd have this opportunity. And like I said earlier, like a year ago, I was working nights. Like I hated being home. I wasn't happy being home from the military. And
Yeah.
I was just watching YouTube videos, like getting, just like escaping my shitty life, like just watching these YouTube videos of pred catching. I just got so wrapped up in it, and now it's my life. And so, I was just thanking him a little extra last night for that.
Well, it really seems like things are clicking for you, man. And like I said, from some of the other videos that I've watched, I like your style. I thought that one that we just talked about was one of the more unique versions of that, and that guy was completely and totally the world just crashed in on him, and the way that you presented it to him, and I was just like, wow, you got dude, like imagine seeing all of your worst secrets just, and then all of a sudden it's just like, this guy that I've just been talking to, like you said, for 45 minutes knows everything, and he just like I've been, like he got me. It's not just that,
Yeah.
but it's like I've been telling him about my business. I've been telling him about like what I like, what I don't like. Like I thought we were cool, and it's just like you just bring the hammer down, dude. That's amazing. Can you maybe walk me through one more like really good encounter?
Yeah, of course. Trying to
Not
think of
good.
it. So
Sorry, I hesitate to use the word good, but I mean like effective. Another effective encounter. Let's say it that
no,
way.
of course.
Yeah.
I definitely know what you mean. So this one's actually it's definitely an interesting one, and the sad part is it didn't even end in any sort of arrest.
Mm.
He's scot free, but it's very interesting in the way where so this was my fourth catch, and this was done in a town where they actually do like they actually do make arrests. So we were very shocked about this. It was in Rockville Center, New York. But I was speaking to this one predator who was about 34 years old, and I met him on the Meet 24 app. And he thought my decoy was 14-year-old girl. They spoke for maybe 2 weeks straight. When we printed out the chat logs, I'd say on the average pred, I'd print out anywhere from 40 to 80 chat logs. This guy was 216.
Can I jump in for a second? I noticed
Yeah,
that
of
you
course.
said they spoke. That's very interesting. Is that like a psychological thing for you that you're like, I am not this person that I'm posing to be? Because I asked you earlier about like how you build
Yeah.
space into it. So that was very interesting that you slipped it in there like that. You're like, yeah, him and they spoke. So it's like I think you're doing a good job because going back, I want to let you get on with your story, and I'm sorry for stepping on
No,
this,
no,
but
you're
it's
good. Yeah,
when
I
I
like it.
when I
Don't
asked
worry.
you when I asked you about praying, it almost seems to me like the bulk of the prayer should be when you're doing the upfront work, where you're having to pose as these people. You know what I mean? Because that's where it seems like it would be the most emotionally taxing. The catch seems like it would be the payoff for all the work. But all that stuff in the beginning, that's the stuff that could wear you down spiritually and emotionally and mentally. You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah. I always believe that decoying is like 90% of the catch. Like the catch is the fun part. It's
right.
yeah, once you get there, everything is done, and now you just gotta like, put the icing on the cake. But
Sure.
yeah, like you said, I do think of it as like playing a role.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
I
so
try to.
please back into your story. I'm sorry that I diverted you.
No, no, of course. So yeah, so this guy was actually from Columbus, Ohio, and we're from New York, Long Island, New York. So that's actually it's a 11-hour car ride.
Yeah.
But we got him to take a bus ride all the way from there to here. It ended
From
up being like
Columbus.
it ended up being a 16-hour Greyhound bus ride. He got over here. We met him at the 7-Eleven, and he was just bewildered. Like he knew what was up. He came here to stay at the apartment with the decoy, and he thought he was gonna stay with her and her mom. The weird thing about this pred is I hate to say it about him, but he never once said one sexual thing to the child. Never once talked about sex, his penis, nothing. Um, the only photos he exchanged was selfies. Like the only times he talked about kissing, it was like in these long poetic like text messages of like when our lips press up against. That's how we had nothing to stick on him because when it comes to law enforcement, that's not illegal. Like a grown man can text a 14-year-old, our lips should press. They can text like let's kiss. That's not illegal. Apparently, I mean, me and you definitely think it should be, but it's not. And so, we had 216 pages of this, over 1,000 text messages of just poetic bullshit, nothing to stand. So, but he still traveled 16 hours to
Yeah.
spend the weekend with this 14-year-old. And, talking to this guy, this was definitely, this was one of my earlier catches. Talking to him it was the first ever pred, and I think the only pred I've ever actually seen like hysterically cry, but not because like he was caught, but it was brought up when he was telling his own story of trauma. And then each time I chimed in and I'm like, you were going to make you could have made the 14-year-old feel the same way you did when you were a child. He'd get more worked up. So he was always like a very interesting case to me because he kind of just seemed very sad to me. And like I knew what he was doing, like I knew he was there, and he admitted that like he was there to hang out with her and he would have had sex with her if she wanted it and all that. And it was just, so then the cops come, they look through every message top to bottom, nothing, and they can't do anything about it. And, Chase, the story that he told us, like his childhood trauma, I already knew that he had some from the text messages, but it was, he specified more that, his father and his father's friends assaulted him when he was a kid. And that's why, him and his mom moved away and they've always just been them two. Do I believe that this was the first ever child he actually went to go meet? Yes, I really do in a way. I
Hmm.
hope it was the last. And I'm even planning an interview with him soon over the phone to, because he even texted us a few weeks after we caught him, the only predator to ever text me after, before me texting him. But he texted us, thank you for catching him and not letting all that happen. Obviously, he wouldn't have texted us thank you if he was arrested, but he wasn't arrested, and he thanked us for us being there instead of a child because he was going to
Hmm.
make the wrong mistake that day. And and even on Thanksgiving, he texted me like Happy Thanksgiving. And I'm not like buddies with the guy. I don't like him. I don't think there's any saving for him. I do think he can just go live his life in Ohio, never touch a kid again, and that's it. He's gonna have to answer to God when it's time.
Yeah.
But I think conversations with him has taught me a lot into the mind of both, of both the predator and the victim,
Hmm.
because it's just, that's what he is. He's a predator and a victim.
Right.
So I think there's more to gain out of him than just sending home like, he was just a dud. You could have looked at it as, but we try to learn from it instead because I think the best way to stop this shit is to stop it before it even happens, and that's
Yeah.
informing people, parents and whatnot.
No, I do agree with you. I don't think that there's any saving a person that's already given into that level of a 16-hour bus ride. But
Yeah.
to the level of maybe if at least you scared him to the place that he's never willing to go that far again. Like how many kids have you saved down the line? You can never know.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So even if he's lost in his own degeneracy, at least maybe you've saved kids from, having him acted out on them.
Right.
So that's an incredible story. I'm really glad that you shared that one, and also that is very interesting. Like you are right. We've had a guest on here before a couple times, who's written a book about his experience being a child victim of sexual predators, and it was male on male. He was a young male, and being caught up in that world, it was another really hard conversation for me to sit through, just because I mean, kudos on the guy, and you guys can go. I'll put the link to that episode down in the show notes of this one. But it's just super hard to to listen to him like recount these events and the amount of strength that it took for him to finally stand up and push back on his victimizer, his predator. Uh, and then you are right, like trauma tends to propagate more trauma, you know. So in this guy's instance, he was able to turn that into a positive thing in his life, and he stood up and he faced it, and now he's using it to help other victims. Um, this other guy's instance that you just the story you told me, like he was going to allow that chain to continue
Yes.
if you hadn't have been there,
Yeah, he
you know.
admitted to that himself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, dude, I've really monopolized the conversation and peppered you with a ton of questions. At this point, man, I'd really like to give you the floor and allow you to take control of the conversation, and we can basically go whichever way that you want with it. I'd like for you to have an open forum.
No, of course. Yeah, I've been liking the conversation so far. Yeah, I think this is just a great opportunity where, like, if there's, because I bet you have like a lot of parents and a lot of,
A lot of them, yeah,
yeah, a lot like that just watching this show. So, I hope they really listen to this. Um, Speaking from like someone who was a child, with a phone just 6, 7 years ago, and now who's doing this line of work, get on your kids' phones. Like, don't let them have Snapchat. Instagram now has a new setting where teen accounts, you can manage the
yeah,
account. Don't even give them Instagram. Don't give them, I know, I just wouldn't give them anything. You know what I mean? Give them the phone and, let them still enjoy like in-person interactions. Cause now you see a lot of these kids are just growing up like, a lot of kids are growing up smart, but they're antisocial. They have no like real, they can't keep eye contact. You
yeah.
can't keep eye contact with someone, you can't get a job. So, it's kind of two benefits in one, but you want to keep them offline. And posting photos of kids' faces now, I know it's crazy to think, but they're, AI child porn is a real thing
Yeah,
and it's not even illegal in every state. So,
that's
they're
insane.
doing it. And they're taking anybody's kids offline, taking any faces offline and they're putting them on. Doing this decoying work, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the actor Millie Bobby Brown, but
Mm-mm.
she's a part of the Stranger Things the
Oh,
cast,
okay.
and yeah, and they're all younger. They're all like 19, 20 now. But I remember a few years ago when they had the Millie Bobby Brown countdown, and they were, there was
So when
public
she was
websites.
18,
Yeah, and
dude,
it's fucking, it's
that's
terrible.
well, I mean, I'm completely and totally against OnlyFans. Like, I'm
Hmm.
against pornography. I think that it rots the brain. I think it rots the soul. I think that it creates an entire like it drives human trafficking and it drives like all of these sex rings that we're seeing. You know what I mean? And I think that there needs to be some type of regulation. And this is me, the free speech guy. I think that there should be some type of regulation on pornography online. Like
100%.
far and above any other trafficked website on the internet are all the pornography websites. It is not even close the amount of hits that they receive a day versus like the next closest bracket of websites, right? Like pornography websites receive more hits a day than the Google homepage. Like it's insane.
That's
Like,
fucking nuts.
dude, and pornography is pervasive. It's pernicious. It's like a cancer inside of the culture. You know what I mean? And it used to be, back when I was a kid. I'm 35, right? So a little bit older than you, I think. But like I remember having to like dial up internet, right? Or we didn't have Wi-Fi in the house, so if I wanted to like check email or whatever, like I'd have to like ride my bike down to the library to go like check an email or something. And if I was with my dad or I was with a public place. Like pornography
Yeah.
was a lot harder to get. This we're no longer in the era of like nudie mags under the bed or in dad's lockbox in the garage or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Playboy calendar on the wall out in dad's shop or something like that. We're so far beyond it. And it's to the point now, dude, where you used to have to go look for it. You would have to go through the beads in Blockbuster to go to the restricted section, like you're in Harry Potter or something, and then if you came out, like
Yeah.
everybody in the store would know. It's like, that dude's renting porn, on VHS or whatever it was, and it's not like that anymore. Now it finds you. It finds
Yeah.
you wherever you are. You know what I mean? And like even on Instagram, sometimes I'll scroll through. Brandon sends me a lot of effed up stuff because we pull a lot of reels for like stingers and segments that we do and stuff like that. And I'll Brandon, if you come back and watch this, you have screwed up my algorithm like terribly. But even then, dude, there's some stuff that slips through the filters on Instagram, and you'll be scrolling through it, and then all of a sudden you'll just get smacked with something. You're like, dude, and like the amount of like OnlyFans requests that you get DM'd like all the time. If it hunts you, dude, it is out there hunting you
Yeah.
like every second of every day. And the whole like guard your heart, lay up treasures for yourself in heaven, verse of the Bible. It's like, dude, that's a thing now because if you don't put stops for yourself, if you're just bebopping through the world, like it's gonna smack you in the face. you know and
Yeah.
I did want to say something about you were talking about don't even give your kids phones, dude. We don't. I have an almost 13-year-old. He'll be 13 next month. And we don't, like, he has no access to a phone. Like sometimes I'll let him use mine, but it's when I'm right there next to him and he doesn't
Yeah.
have access to the open internet. I do like what you said earlier. Like if you give your kids access to the internet, you haven't given them the world, you've given them to the world. Like that was
Yeah.
profound. I really like that. So what we did in order for him to have, because we let him run around the neighborhood and all that jazz. So we actually got him what's called a Gab Watch. I don't know if you've heard of these, but it can send and receive text messages and voice recorded messages, but only to whitelisted numbers. So if you're
Oh,
not
okay.
in the whitelist on the watch, like it doesn't, like you can text it all day long and he won't get it. Or if he tries to text somebody and it's not in the whitelisted number, it won't show up in his watch. He can't even store it. Like you have to have the password to go into the watch and then put it in the whitelisted numbers and then it'll show up on the watch. Which his mom and I, we control the app for it, right, on our phone so that we can add stuff to it. But that's one way that I've found to kind of get around what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, I want my kid to have access to me, but I don't want to give him to the world just so that he can call me if he needs me, to quote you. You know what I mean? So
No, yeah,
I
I like that. More parents should use that.
yeah, and I
That's a
don't have
great
any
tool.
relationship with Gab. Like they don't sponsor us or anything. I just found it and I think it's a great tool for parents. So I like to put that out there when we can. But uh, uh, what do you think about? We were talking a little bit about AI and using images online to generate AI porn. Um, do you, do you think that there's a way that we can make that illegal, or even should we make that illegal? Because I think here in a few years, I think even by the 2028 election, I think you're going to see all types of porn videos of all the candidates coming out because it's getting so good.
Hmm.
And now, like, it's going to literally have to be a thing where the candidate's going to have to be like, "That's not me. That's an AI generated video of me screwing a goat," or whatever it is, because they're going to do the most heinous things with it.
Yeah, very
So
much so.
what can we do to stop that? Because I think that's evil in and of itself to be able to take somebody's likeness and then generate a video of them doing like heinous things.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's got to be on some sort of level where any AI can be detected. I mean, it can't be like where I mean, I'm sure you remember when they faked the whole Epstein missing minute bullshit, but
Hmm.
like people figured out that was like Adobe, like normal people just like me and you were figuring out that was bullshit. So I feel like any AI by the right people can be figured out and just tossed right out. I feel like a lot of these things they would ping up just like a normal, because when a child pornography photo gets sent, if it looks explicit enough at a young age, it pings and then it gets sent to a certain agency to follow up on that tip. We could do the same thing with that. They just choose
Sure.
not to, and they have words for it too. I forgot what it's called, um, but there's an actual word for AI child pornography. uh, like there's animated versions and there's the AI version where it looks like humans and shit. So it's illegal in a lot of states, but it's still just they get away with it, and you have people who are like in political roles defending it, saying that let them do it because this is going to deter them from doing the real thing, which, like you said, that doesn't make any fucking sense. It's gonna push them. It's gonna give them this taste, this hunger for more. I remember being a kid and I watched porn and like I figured out like what that stuff was. Like I wanted to try it then. You know what I mean? Like, so it would be the same thing for them. So I think it can be automated to the point where like when if it pops up on someone's screen, there could be search warrants just built up like that, and then within a few weeks you have a bunch of people at that front door ready to take every device. It should be dealt with as serious as regular child porn. Basically, it is child porn.
It is, because
Yeah.
though it might be a facsimile of the thing. I mean, dude, you've seen the AI videos of Trump coming out, at a first glance, when your brain sees that, it is real to you. And a lot of
Oh yeah.
times, like the videos are getting so good. My buddy keeps sending me videos of like animals crashing through the wall and just destroying people's
Yeah.
homes. And they're funny because they look real enough, but it's like you can really only you go back and you go like some of the movements just aren't just right with gravity. You're like that didn't make sense, and then your brain has to kick in and go, that's not how physics works. But it's like the fur on the animal and the way the glass shatters all over the floor and all of that. You're like, it looks real enough though.
Mhm.
And if you're making explicit content out of it, you can make it look real enough that it's like it still does the same thing to your brain. You're still getting the same dopamine hit. You're still scratching the same demonic
Right. Yeah.
itch, all of that stuff. So I agree with you. Like, I think it should be illegal, and we should come up with something to do with it. I guess my next follow on question would be like, what do you do about then the private server? Because there's a lot of places like Discord, which is just rampant with this stuff. I know a lot of the
Yeah.
764 and groups like that, we've talked about in the past, like that stuff happens on Discord. And a lot of times when the feds try to subpoena them, Discord's just like, no, we're not playing ball. It's like
Yeah.
I know that the federal government has digital forensics enough to the point where it's like if they wanted in there, they would. And this also goes back to our
Yeah.
conversation about if it was important to you to solve this problem, you would solve it. So
Hmm.
apparently you don't care enough, right? But it's like what's something that we could do about that, about policing up some of these sites like Roblox, like Discord, that are hiding this stuff in private servers and just allowing it to propagate there, which is almost like it's not deep web, but it's like probably the closest thing to deep web that like most normie people would figure out without like really diving into the world of uh, digital technology and like seeking to learn how to go deeper than that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so are you speaking as like just normal players in the game? Like, how can they like avoid that, or what are you
Um,
asking specifically?
But yeah, we can start there. My question was more about like how can we regulate it as a society to like deal with the problem. But yeah, I think maybe starting off with a more tangible way of like, because my kids like to play Roblox. My 13-year-old, he liked to play it until I figured out
Oh,
about
yeah.
this stuff a couple years ago, and then I said, "No. Like it's just not worth it. It's so rampant that I just don't trust it. I think it's a bad game. Oh, dad, but I like it. I'm like, yeah, I know you like it, but I'm dad, and I say no. Like, we're just not doing that
Mhm.
anymore. And then I introduced him to Halo, the original Combat Evolved,
Okay, that's good.
and then he got
Yeah.
into Xbox. And then I unplugged the Xbox from the wall, and I'm like, you don't need Xbox Live. Like, you can just play Halo. And then he was fine, and he was like, oh man, killing aliens is awesome. I'm like, yeah, it is. You know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, what are some practical tips for like players in the game? Like, how can they protect themselves?
Yeah, so I mean, like they're gonna look for you at any age. I mean, like anybody can get assaulted or groomed. You don't have to just be a child. But yeah, I mean, just speaking as like any player, don't just, if you notice some of these stuffs, don't just be like a bystander. Definitely try to be a part of the solution. You see one of these like Charlie Kirk shooting games, or like, they got games where they literally have like kid players like dancing on fake poles and then like sending photos of themselves. Like it's not that hard to like come across one of these games if you're just on the app for good. You notice it, recognize it, report it, deal with it. Like if you're of age of someone like me, take the few minutes out of your day to look into it. Like just don't be like afraid of getting involved, because there are a lot of kids on there and they don't know how to say no. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. They send the wrong photo. Now they're telling that kid, like you said, those 764 groups, it starts as little as they have the rubric for it. You be really nice to the kid, make them like you, you like them, establish a friendship, a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, and then as soon as you get that one piece of information, turn the tide, be mean to them, be brutal, talk nasty to them. These signs now, since you're hearing about them, it's kind of hard to like remember. So definitely stay up on like grooming habits. Like it's as little as just going in Google and searching up like how do predators groom people, and it says it all right there, and you just got to avoid that stuff. If you're a kid in the game and like there's an adult trying to play with you, like I get it as like I remember being a kid and like talking to adults or like smoking weed with adults and stuff and just thinking like, oh, we're just cool, we're just chill, like they're just cool like that. They're not. Like I'm an adult and I would never like hang out with a 14-year-old. I would never do anything like that. It's not cool.
Right.
I would think that people are going to think weird of me. So as it's kind of weird as the kid to think like that, but you do kind of have to like be like, what if I was 25 years old? Would I be talking to me? Like, no, I wouldn't be. Like, would I
Right.
talk to someone 3 years younger than me? No, I wouldn't. So, you know, it's hard for a kid, but put yourself in those shoes. You have to, you got to look out too for yourself. And I hate saying that because they're kids. I mean, that's why we're supposed to be making these decisions.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's the
100%.
gamble.
No, 100%, dude. I was raised of the mindset, and I kept it when I became a father of like, I'm your dad. I'm not your friend. You're gonna have plenty of friends all through the rest of your life, but you only get one dad. You know what I mean? And so because of that, it's
100%.
like I'm gonna make decisions on your behalf, especially when you're too young to make them for yourself. You may not always like me, and that's fine. I don't need you to like me, but I care about what's best for you, and I'm gonna do what's best for you, regardless of whether you like me or not. Eventually, maybe someday you'll realize that I had your best interest at heart. But it's like I want you to arrive to that point alive and unmolested. And I use
Yes.
that word molested in like all kinds of different ways, whether it's like what we've been talking about or like getting beat up or assaulted or just anything, dude. I want you to arrive there
Hmm.
like in one piece and alive and happy and have a good, worldview about you and be ready to unnaive and be ready to take on the world for yourself. It's like that's my job is to raise future men.
Yeah. 100%.
Dude, like, and it's one more thing that
I
really
like.
stood out. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, yeah, but I like that you actually used the word like with your kids. Like I know it like sounds graphic, but I feel like kids like in that sort of sense, like if they're gonna treat them like adults, we gotta treat them like adults too. In that sense, we gotta tell
Sure.
them like these adults, they want to hurt you, they want to touch you, they don't, they're not actually they're not gonna take care of you like mommy and daddy will. So I
Yeah.
like that you actually use those words.
Yeah, I mean,
Scare them.
not with the 7-year-old and below,
No, of course,
obviously, but
obviously.
like, but there comes at an age where they start getting. Here's a funny story. So, my 13-year-old is like a few months ago. We get home from. We take him to a group called Trail Life, and it's a lot like the Boy Scouts was originally designed to be, but with a lot more Christian influence on it. So they have like a little Bible study each week, and then they go out and they do
Awesome.
their knot tying and camping and hunting and all that other stuff that they teach him how to do. And we get home from that, and we're putting all the other kids to bed, and my wife goes, "I need to talk to you about something," and I was like, "All right." Is that 8:30 on a Tuesday night or whatever? And she goes, "Open your YouTube app on your phone." And so I'm like, "Okay," and I do. And she like grabs it, she opens the history and she scrolls through it, turns it around and slides it back over to me. And I looked down and there was like 4 or 5 videos in a row with very, very suggestive photos as the thumbnails. And I'm like, "What?" I was like, "I didn't watch this." She goes, "I know you didn't." And I was just immediately I realized. And so I click on them and I scroll through them really quick. And they were all like bikini review videos. And so these chicks like they line up and they do like the snap or something, and suddenly they're in the bikini and they're showing the bikini off and they're talking about it, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, whatnot. And I was like, well, I didn't watch these. Hannah goes, I know you didn't. And I was like, oh, because sometimes, we at this point we would let Carson stay up. We would go to bed and I would usually give him like 30 extra minutes. It's like, here you go, man. He's a little older. He's 12 and a half. And I'm like, you can have like 30 extra minutes and then you go to bed at 9:30 or whatever the case is, right? And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And she goes, this is what Carson brought up on YouTube last night. And I was like, okay. So then we had to have that conversation with Carson about it, and I tried to be as, it's like, I don't want to sensationalize this. I don't want to turn it into the forbidden apple. I'm like, he's 12 and a half. He is right on time, dude. Like he is, he is right
It
on
is,
time.
that is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, none of it, I would say not safe for work, but none of it was pornography either.
No,
Right.
I didn't think
So,
so. Yeah, it's YouTube.
yeah.
So
Right. Well, I mean, sometimes stuff slips through on YouTube, and
yeah.
so it's like you got to be on your toes everywhere. Like I said earlier, it hunts you. But anyway, so I asked him, I'm like, hey, what made you want to watch this? Well, I don't know, Dad. I'm like, you can just tell me. I mean, just tell me. Well, I wanted to see. I was like, you wanted to see what was under their clothes, right? Well, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, dude, like that is like God made you that way. Like guys like girls. That's the way it is. You're becoming interested. I'm like, all this stuff. But I was like, here's what bothered me. I was like, why did you wait until mommy and I went to bed to go watch it? And I was like, it kind of makes me feel like you want to sneak around behind my back and go do things. And I'm like, if you have questions about stuff like this, I'd rather you ask me, because I'm like, I will tell you, what you need to know. I will answer all of your questions. And he was like, okay. And I'm like, okay. So if you have questions, he was like, I'll ask you. And I said, okay. I said, one more thing though. You're no longer allowed to watch YouTube by yourself. Like no more access to YouTube, right? And so that's the way that we put it in place, and that's the way that it is to this day. But yeah, dude, like you're right, man. It finds you everywhere, and there's all types of little gateways. Whether it's something like that's like largely innocent on its face, but then all of a sudden it leads to the like, well, let me go find the next thing because that didn't give me the information I wanted, right? Like I didn't get everything I wanted after that, and then you find yourself way down the rabbit hole after that. But one last question I wanted to ask you because it came up earlier was you were talking about, you mentioned it twice with two of your different catches about how like you would never know, like you see this guy in the street and you're like you would never imagine.
Oh
How
yeah.
many times have you been sitting next to one of these predators in a restaurant or something, and they're like there with their family or something, and you just wouldn't know out in public. Is there,
No.
in your
No.
experience, is there any type of behavior that you've seen from any of these guys? Like maybe when you were having interactions with them before you flip the script that you can like tie a through line through and be like, this here was something that I noticed was, like popped up multiple times in maybe the character or the mannerisms or the way they held themselves or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I like that question actually. That's a great question. I've thought about that like a lot since I've started because I mean, some guys I catch are felons, some guys are,
Right.
employees and district attorneys, they're teachers, uh, you know, they're unemployed, whatever. And so, I've caught in a 24-year-old, a 23-year-old, both like decent looking kids too. Like you wouldn't think, you know what I mean? But that's what they do. I would say like the only thing I can point to is, and I think it's happened with every predcast so far, is when I talk to them face to face, it's almost like there's like this, it's almost like there's split personality, and it's almost as if the predator is like this dark side of them, and then when I show up and I'm talking to them, they're honest, they're telling me everything, they're saying like, I know I shouldn't be doing this shit, like, most of the time we get thanked for doing what we do, like they appreciate us, they say. But and I think there's a small part of them that actually feels like they should just say that, because they feel like that's what a good person would say.
Mm.
So I think it's the only thing I could say that every one of these predators share is when I get face to face with them, like there's this split personality, and I'll say the things that I'll even have them. Or the thing I like to do personally is I'll have them read one of the disgusting things they said out loud, and they're like I can't even believe I said that. Or in the last catch, I had the guy read all these disgusting things he said out loud, but then when JDon was like you just came here to fuck her, like is that the case? He's like, oh, I don't like using that word. Now it's like It's like I said, there's two different people. It's like that, the normal person and then the predator side of them, and that normal person side, you know, like it almost seems like, they're almost acting like they don't like the predator side of them.
Yeah,
I wish there was like a certain look or like job,
sure.
you know, I'd say like the majority of them were Spanish, my predators at least. But if there is like some things you could look out for, um, there is like I don't have a problem with gay people or trans people at all, but there is definitely a severe overlap in perversion in the gay
Mhm.
community. Severely, a lot of these predators we catch, I'd say almost every one of them is bisexual. Every one of them I've caught is bisexual. It's because they've crossed. I feel like bisexual is like the first, super out there threshold. And then
Mhm.
once they cross that, they're into pee play and diapers, and then dogs and cats and fuck else. What else knows? So
Dude, that's wild, man. Well, hey, thank you for having this conversation.
no, of course,
Dude, I have learned a lot. I think you put out a lot of really good information from the benefit of your experience now so far and the benefit of your perspective. I'd like to go ahead and I would love to check up with you, maybe several months down the road, and just have like a check in, bring you back on the podcast. Hopefully, when Brandon can be here, and see like what you've been able to do between now and then, and see like how your we'll call it the roster, how your roster has expanded to that time, because I like seeing the success stories, man. I really, and I would like to get you
I
back
appreciate
on
that.
to kind of talk about it, and then maybe we can apply the data that you'll have at that point back to some of the questions that we've had now, and see
Mhm.
like if maybe any of your perspectives have changed or grown, or like I'm sure you'll have honed things in even better by that point. And I think it would be an interesting like part two to this conversation if you'd be willing to come back and do that.
Oh, of course, yeah. This conversation was great, and I love that I finally had the chance to like come on something like this in front of a bunch of parents, in front of like a bunch of adults, and just talk about this. Like the grooming habits and just how to look out for it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Donnie, thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm going to let you go ahead and sign off and tell the people where they can find you, blast your stuff, like all the socials everywhere, and then also let them
Oh yeah,
know how they can support you in what you're doing.
yeah, of course. So we're mainly on YouTube right now, NY Pred Hunters, and Instagram. Just look for those ads. If you ever want to support us, we're also on Locals and Rumbles. We have all of our uncensored, unedited, non-YouTube friendly stuff over there. You can check out the explicit chat logs from top to bottom. That can give you a, if you're really trying to learn about the, how these guys do that, that's the best way to do it. So NY Pred Hunters, and we're also on Cash App and Venmo if you do want to just, help support. Our biggest video, which was 51,000 views, we only made $38 off of it. So it's just, so if you want to support, help out, and we have a bunch of cool things planned down the road. We even have a turning point catch next week, so
Oh,
we're excited about
dude,
that.
outstanding. Well, dude, thank you so
Fuck
much for
yeah.
coming on again. Thank you guys for all hanging out. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I know it got a little bit dark, but I think that sunlight is the best disinfectant for evil like this. You got to drag this stuff out into the light. You got to talk about it, man. You gotta let people know like what's going on, especially the parts where we talked about how the police and the DA's offices just like don't do anything with it, like even when you send it to them, right? So stuff like this
Yeah.
isn't going to change unless we get in and change it. And I think
Hell
I
yeah.
said it a few times, and I'll say it again, man. I think you're doing God's work. So thank you for being on here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hey, if you did, please like, subscribe, and this one in particular, I'm going to ask you from the heart. Please take this video and share it with somebody that you think needs to see it. Maybe another parent or something like that. There was a lot of info in here that's really just really good info to have if you're a parent, if you love your kids and you want to help protect your kids in a new digital era that we live in. Like, you're going to want to know about some of the stuff that we talked about. Love you guys so much, and we will catch you next week on I Came with Fire podcast. Take it easy, guys.